just came from an event down at Mission Bay, and it is packed.
Is it really?
Every single beach or park.
Oh, yeah.
Very hard yesterday.
And that's, yeah.
Thank you.
I thought by afternoon everybody could go home, but I'll have someone know.
No, it hasn't been bad at all.
My birthday was Friday, my son's birthday after dinner.
Where'd you go?
After dinner?
Wait, where? What restaurant?
My son drove me, and so I don't recall where we were, but I wanted to tell you that I think
That's great.
they're 27 and 29.
All right, good.
And they don't vote usually.
We need younger voters to take.
So I convinced them, because I told them we wanted to recover our country. It's like,
Oh, and here's
that's incredible. We'll vote for him.
It's so hard to get that next generation
Oh, yeah.
to get involved in politics.
Well, they don't usually vote because they're not interested in politics, they're more interested in
I can't blame them.
athletics and their girlfriends. Social life. I hope so.
We're grateful for the air conditioning, by the way.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be a long day if we didn't have it with it.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted we'll start up, and I'm sure some folks will trickle in. I announced a few weeks ago that we were going to do a series of listening tours, town halls, to get feedback on my education plan. Before I release it, I'll be releasing it in the next few weeks. And people sometimes are surprised because they say that the federal government doesn't have that much of a role in education. I disagree. In fact, I'm trying to take on my own party when it comes to their not being as passionate and as committed to offering ideas in the area of education. And so we've come up with a couple ideas that I think are going to be important, particularly in San Diego. First, my education plan is going to unveil a proposal to enhance teacher performance evaluation and rewards. I was shocked when I found out that the San Diego Unified School District, as well as Poway Unified, has a policy that they only evaluate their teachers but once every 5 years. Once every 5 years.
Both school districts?
Both school districts, yes. The second thing is that when I asked for San Diego Unified to give me a copy of the teacher evaluations, they said that they didn't have any copies because they give qualitative verbal feedback once every 5 years. And so I was like, okay, all right. So obviously, we don't have a very good system in place for evaluating and recognizing our best teachers. The reason why is that the current system is driven by tenure. How long a teacher has been there is going to determine what class assignments they get, their seniority in terms of being able to pick the classes or schools that they want to teach in, and then of course pay and bonuses. Time served really is not, in my opinion, I think most parents' opinion, the right measure. And we may not have perfect measures to evaluate teachers, but the conversation of actually talking about how would you measure academic achievement, how would you measure teacher quality, is a conversation in and of itself that I think can improve our schools. So I'm proposing in the federal government, we have a program called the Teacher Incentive Fund, the TIF. And I'm proposing to not only put more money into that program, but cut red tape on that program so that we have only two requirements. One, school districts will have to commit in order to receive the money to evaluate their teachers at least once a year. Number two, they have to post the performance ratings online for each individual teacher. That's all I'm asking for. I believe that annual evaluations that then are made available to parents and the public will be the kind of the foundation of this transformation in education. And my goal is to see the available dollars go to our best teachers. And if we are paying our best teachers the bonuses, the salary increases that we have available in the budget, I think that's going to be a profound transformation in our education system. Second reform area is finding a way to connect community resources with schools. This past week I met with ministers, and they told me about some of the children in their congregation that in San Diego Unified are being told that they have to bring in a ream of paper, and that there's no school supplies for children in the system. And some of the kids that are lower income, if they can't bring in the paper, then a teacher merely emails the assignment to one of the parents' email address. Well, who knows whether that's going to get there? And so we do, school lunch program is another example where there are nonprofit resources out there for kids that are in lower income homes where they give them food during the day to take home for their dinner. It's called Feeding America, the program that offers this. And so what I'm going to do is figure out how we get more and more nonprofit resources, charitable resources, local businesses involved in supporting each of our schools. I've always said that the level of integration of all the programs that we have here is not sufficient, and that if we got all the resources available that are out there to the right kids in the right classrooms, that we could do a lot more. So I'm going to use my office to try to convene discussions and then planning meetings on what do we need for the school year, who out there has it, who's going to go out and then go get it, how do we connect all the dots. And then third and finally, we have seen some really poor decisions in the school district. Both school districts over the years, obviously the Poway bonds, I'm very happy with the financial mismanagement of those bonds. And in San Diego Unified, I hear complaints all the time about the lack of responsiveness of the board. An example being, I'm a big proponent of charter schools because they allow for us to have more diversity and innovation in how we're teaching children. And San Diego used to be a leader in improving charter schools. We have High Tech High. I was part of the city council that moved forward on a charter school in the downtown library. We had the opportunity to create an urban learning model for that charter school. So they deal with issues like homelessness and urban planning, urban art programs. I didn't even know there was such thing as an urban art program until they said that was kind of their whole focus, is bringing an urban environment to life, with education. So charter schools allow us to have innovation. The board rejected the last charter school application this past year, even though the district staff supported the application. And so as a member of Congress, my hope is to be a community leader who doesn't ignore education issues. I want to be someone who stands up for the community if the school board isn't listening, and perhaps lead some change in education policies for competition, for choice, for innovation, for accountability. A lot of times those issues are swept by the wayside. But I'm only as good as the ideas you give me. So if you've got a good idea, if there's a problem, then I can take advantage of your idea and try to put that into our education plans. And so that's why I'm doing these town halls, to listen to your thoughts and your ideas before we roll this out. Yes?
I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
I'm a retired counselor from Poway High.
Yeah.
And that was in 2005. And I'm still substitute teaching
Right.
at all the schools in Poway Unified. And the tragedy that occurred over the course of the last 10 years is that we used to have, I was a counselor, but my husband was a teacher. And we used to have, the classes were between 25 and 30 students, and it made it very easy to teach and evaluate. And now, over the course of the last 10 years, it's gone from between 38 and 43
Class size,
students per class. So is there any way that a financial reimbursement, because I think that's what caused it, is because the school district was running low on money, so they had to eliminate the number of teachers and increase the amount of, so is there any way that, because we had 6 counselors when I was originally there,
We
we
just
got
keep
down to
cutting.
only 4. So-
One of the things I did in the city, prior 8 years before I got on city council, and the guy I'm running against was on the city council for those 8 years and led it. I actually led the city council. They kept cutting and cutting and cutting. 40% reduction in library hours, eliminated after-school programs in San Diego in the most neediest of neighborhoods, canceled road when I got on the council, I said, and they were saying, oh, well, you know, the fiscal crisis means that we have to cut more, raise taxes, declare bankruptcy. I said, no. The problem is that we don't have enough money. The problem is that we're not spending the current money we have efficiently and accountably. And so what I want to do is performance audits. I want to look at innovation. I want to get ideas from the employees. I want to get ideas from the community. And we identified where the money was going. And it wasn't going to frontline services. It was going to a lot of inefficiency. The pension benefits, where city employees were retiring at age 50, age 55. Those are the standard retirement ages that they voted themselves with these union deals. And they were earning more in their first year of retirement than their highest salary. We found a librarian earning $234,000 a year in pension. And I'm like, come on, how in the world did this system get created? Well, when you looked at it, the politicians got their own salary hikes and their own pension spikes through these deals. The managers that negotiated it also got these benefits. So nobody was looking out for us, and so we got into these very costly deals. Part of our budget plan was to find ways to thoughtfully reform the benefit structure. We see in CalSTRS, which is the state teachers retirement system, and every school district that has to pay a percentage of salary in there, and it's skyrocketed higher and higher. The retiree healthcare costs, the healthcare benefits. So what we want to do is figure out how do we take a look at every budget in the school system and make sure that the dollar gets into the classroom. And what I want to do is find out how we can expand the types of programs, reduce class sizes, and I absolutely know that the money is there. The question is whether you have school board members and administrators that are willing to manage accountably, and that has not been there. And as a member of Congress, if I can add to the conversation in offering my own budget plan for the school district, you bet I will. We will lay out ideas for how the school district can save money, and if they don't like them, at least the ideas are out there. They would have to then have the responsibility of looking parents in the eyes, children in the eyes, saying, yeah, but there's no money, we can't save any money, so we're going to cut teachers and we're going to increase class sizes. I don't think that an informed community, when they know that there are other options out there, will allow that to happen. My office will be, we'll have a fiscal analyst on my office staff that will be looking at the budgets of our two primary school districts in the district.
I work for Ken Crest Academy, San Diego,
Yeah.
but I live here, my students, my kids went to Westview. It has always surprised me that you've got this school over there that is achieving the same budget as everyone else and is thriving, and no one from Poway Unified comes over to find out what we're doing.
Right.
What are we doing right? And the things that we are doing right over there are the kids are engaged, and so is the staff. I think evaluations happen every year. They don't happen every year. I'd be totally surprised, because I know I'm reviewed every year. And the things that are making the difference for our campus, because certainly we have high class sizes, it's the attitude of the staff and the attitude of the kids. Canyon Crest is a school of choice. It means anyone in our district can come there. No one is assigned geographically, but
Right.
they must select it.
Yeah.
When they select it, we have not enough spots. It goes to a lottery. We've grown. I was hired in 2007 for the first graduating class of 2008, which the class of 2004 started in trailers with freshmen only.
Yeah, I remember.
Now we're so popular that we just had to let in all of the people off the wait list, and our numbers are growing. We're over 2,000 now. They're trying to keep it low. But that's not, even with the constraints of the growth, the classroom size, what's different is the community involvement and the way kids and staff are treated on campus. We also have, the arts are big. We have 3 days a week after school conservatory for advanced kids across all disciplines, fun teachers have those kids competing in math tournaments, and it's always with the quirk. We're sort of the loosey-goosey school, you know, everything's kind of low-key and fun. But they have them, they know how to prepare these kids for those schools, so the schools have recognized that our kids are doing well. When our kids move on and come and are in college, they inevitably come back to visit in swarms, and they say, we had the best years of our life at that school. So.
Does it give a strong culture?
The culture is anything you can think of, put it out there and you can try it. And there is no, the difference, and it's a very symbolic difference. When my kids went to Westview at their graduation, they sat in rows, alphabetical, they weren't allowed to bring anything in, they couldn't decorate their hats, they couldn't do anything. Canyon Crest, you graduate, you can sit wherever you want as long as we know where you are, you can sit with your friends, talk about decorating your hat. We've had kids walk in with trees that twirl electronically. Everything it's so free there. They are encouraged to be creative. They're encouraged to get involved. We added a humanities core, and sometimes the whole school is involved in a project. It's collaborative, and people don't come to. And we're top performing high school public.
Yeah.
So why are people knocking at our doors to find out what we're doing right? The counselors are the hardest working people I've ever met. And they're all counselors, they're not teachers, they're trained counselors.
One of the things that we need more is competition and choice. And obviously, you are a school that has been able to get out of the traditional system, and there's a wait list, and you want to do a lottery. But you've been able to create an educational model that works for many children, and it's different. You talk about the arts and technology fused together. The best way for us to get that to be expanded, and it's not going to work for all children, because you're the school of choice, people know about what you do, and they say, well, I want my child who seems to be artistic, who seems to be interested in technology. I think that's the right environment for my child. It may not be the right environment for every child, and that's why what I'm trying to do is create an education system that meets our children where they are, not where we expect every single child to be in a box.
So when you're talking about the incentives for the teachers, I think that's a great idea, but I really think it's the quality and the attitude of the teachers that makes the biggest difference. The pay, I'm sure our teachers would love to have extra pay, but that's not what drives them to be where they are. And I don't know how you address that. I don't know, obviously we're good at hiring teachers that fit our personality,
Right.
but I don't know.
Well, I think
address that.
the teaching performance is the foundation. I talked about expanding competition and choice, that parents have the ability to send their child to a school that meets their need. And with competition, not one size fits all. It should be the different educational models. Charter schools obviously is one vehicle that you can use to create different education models, because they are given a lot more flexibility to innovate. And if you have a more competitive environment, principals at those schools, because they recognize that they get reimbursed based upon attendance, they're going to be thinking, all right, what is it about my school that nobody wants to come here? How do I go to other schools to figure out what they're doing right so that we can bring that culture in? When we start looking at teacher performance ratings, also, it's not just about the end outcome. What about a teacher that goes into a hard-to-serve community and starts out with children that, let's say, according to standardized tests, are failing, and moves them to B students, versus a teacher that goes into an environment where there's a lot more parental involvement, and the demographics are on their side, and they walk in, they inherit children that are A- students, and they move them to A. So who do we want to evaluate as a better teacher, or at least as a teacher that had turned in better performance? I would argue the teacher that went and inherited a starting point that was really bad. But this is also going to be a conversation that you need to have across the country. Do you have a role for student evaluation of their own teachers? I would say so. Do you have a role for parental evaluation of teachers? I would say absolutely. Should you mix in standardized tests? Yes. And roll up into some sort of evaluation of the teacher. Is it perfect? No, but it's a heck of a lot better than we evaluate verbally once every 5 years, which is the current system.
What kind of, you said you're going to have to go ahead and start partying with that, because where are they going to say, well, that's a state?
They did, yeah, when I rolled out my website, we had a button there for education. And I talked about my teacher performance plan as well as my support for competition and choice in education. And the feedback was, take that button off your website, we have nothing to do with education. So the way I flipped it around was, do you want a strong economy? Well, of course, we're the party of the economy. Okay. Do you think we can have a strong economy if our children aren't performing, if they're not acquiring skills? Well, that's a state responsibility, local responsibility. Yes, it is, but we still have the ability to use the Department of Education to identify best practices. If you have a school that's off the charts in a district, I want to get as many people to go study what you're doing as possible. And then put that on the internet, get that out there in educational conferences so that people know what your model is and maybe they can borrow from it. We do have dollars that we should be using to support our schools at the federal level. And so if we do have that money being spent already, let's not debate over whether or not we should or shouldn't. Let's get the biggest bang for the buck. Let's make those programs work the best. And so that's been my approach, and I know that I'm going to get criticized for it. So be it. I think that there is substantial room for improvement in public education, and we need to be part of the conversation. Maybe I'll be the only one talking about it. That's fine. And when there's a void, we'll fill it. Same thing on the issue of the environment. We should be having thoughtful ideas and policy plans by both parties on these issues, not just one. That doesn't give you the best options, the best outcomes.
For the teacher evaluations, that's going to be, you want it to be a federal program?
It's already a federal program.
Oh,
It's
it
a
is?
teacher improvement fund, and so what I'm doing is taking those funds and adding more money into the program to reward and recognize our best teachers. Well, how do you reward and recognize your best teachers? Well, I would submit that you need some accountability metric for school districts to receive those funds. The best measure I can come up with is that you evaluate once a year, at least. And number two, that you post the rankings and ratings online. Because I don't want the federal government telling our schools and our principals, our school boards, our parents, what the measure should be. I think the conversation at every local level, in every school, on how would you measure teachers, what would be the way to rate them, that is a substantial benefit in having the conversation alone, even if you don't come up with the right measures. Having that conversation in every school and having teachers say, well, this is how I think I should be rated. And then a parent says, well, this is how I think we should evaluate teachers. That clarifies what the district, what each school is trying to achieve and how they characterize high-performing teachers.
So it's funded at the federal level?
Yes, right now this program already exists. What I'm trying to do is
Your
make it
expansion
better.
will be funded as well.
And then is it the principal who's in charge of evaluating?
It's up to the school board and parents. I don't, at the federal level, I don't want to mandate how the metrics are to be established and how many, but I want to know that you evaluate once a year and that it's publicly available to all parents. Think about it this way. Every mom and dad has this experience. Their son or daughter comes home, gets assigned their teachers for the first time each year. You walk in with the list. What do? The phone, you call the parents and say, hey, do you know anything about this teacher? Hey, do you know anything about this one? And they start swapping information. It is more of a qualitative, analogy-based way of getting some information. We're now in an environment where people don't book vacations unless they look at TripAdvisor reviews. That they look at in Uber, they rate the driver. I mean, all these things are happening through technology. In our schools, we're not having that sort of conversation. If you select where you're going to dine that night based on Yelp or some other online evaluation system, again, none of these are perfect. I believe we can come up with a better system for how we evaluate and reward our teachers. Because the money's out there. We are giving bonuses and salary increases. It's already in these budgets. What I want to do is see how we can roll that up and make it driven more by performance and achievement than anything else. Do you have a question?
Yeah, my name's Mike. I'm a high school senior, so I'm going to be going to college next year. So obviously student loans and college tuition.
Do you have
is
any
really
thoughts on what
important
schools
to
you
me.
wanna go to?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about maybe like UCLA, Berkeley, probably staying in state, maybe UC Santa Cruz, probably UC. So I was just wondering, you know, this is my first election voting, and I was just wondering how you can support a budget that then slashes Pell Grant funding like it does on the Ryan budget.
I don't support that budget. I think that there are some good ideas that have been offered in the budget debate by both sides. But I'm gonna introduce my own budget.
Okay.
When I get into Congress, it's gonna be exactly like I did on city council. I'm gonna look at innovative ideas. I'm gonna take a look at ideas, no matter who offers them, if it's a Democrat idea or a Republican idea. If it's a good idea, I'll support it. And just like I did on the city council, I'm not gonna wait for someone else to introduce a budget plan. I'm gonna offer some of my own budget ideas. That's how we got the roadmap to recovery. That's how we balanced the budget without tax increases. That's how I cleaned up Scott Peters' mess, is that his budget slashed after school programs, eliminated our daycare programs, cut library hours by 42%, decimated some of our public safety programs. And so I said, no, we've already lost. We've paid our taxes. We deserve the services that we purchased. And so what we did with our budget plan is we went through and we identified cost savings and put all the savings back into restoring lost services. I was very proud of the fact that my time on city council, we were able to identify savings to start improving our library hours again, and start dealing on a 5-year basis with our staffing issues in the police department. And that would not have happened had I just accepted stale ideas that people were offering when I walked into office. So glad I could clarify that.
Yeah.
Do you suppose that it was to reduce the interest rate on student loans?
Absolutely, and I think there are ways to reduce interest rates and make the student loan programs more flexible through reforms. Do you know that you have a system now where our community banks and credit unions cannot offer student loans? Credit unions, nonprofit credit unions are not allowed to offer student loans. So what I want to do is open up the system so that more providers are available for student loans. I want to see if we can change the rules for repayment so that you can refinance student loans. If you get a student loan at 9%, one of our 9, 10, 11, 12, you can't refinance that loan. You're not allowed to. And also, the rules are very strict for if you miss payments, if you can say, well, look, I'm on some hardship right now, can I get a repayment plan that works for me? The loan provider's not allowed to do that. In fact, you are forced into default. That's the way the program works right now. The banks are telling us the law made me do it. Well, if the law made you do it, let's change the law. Let's make this program more affordable so that you can refinance it. For some categories of public service, and some professions where we're having challenges like public health, if you work in a community health clinic, I'd be happy to change the loan repayment so it's a percentage of your income rather than an actual flat rate plus interest. So I want to see how we can change the student loan program to provide more flexibilities. Obviously, I'm looking at her proposal and other proposals as well. The other thing I want to do is try to reduce the cost of college education. In California, I'll be pushing the pension reform initiative at the state level, which will produce savings in the UC and CSU systems. We save money here in San Diego, but that was not applied to any state agencies. It was just the city of San Diego. If we want to save money the same way on state programs like the UC system, we need to do pension. We need to have those systems be more affordable.
I have an item that I can share.
All right, yeah. You've been in the system, obviously.
I have 2 sons who graduated from college, and it was in 2010 and 2011, and the student loan interest rate was high, and I was paying for student loans. My husband wouldn't pay for him because his parents wouldn't pay, so I was paying for student loans. And so I don't know if this will be too much of a challenge. I got frustrated with that interest rate, so I transferred all the amount of the student loans into our mortgage loan.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it was several $100,000.
Oh, wow.
But my mortgage loan was only 4%. So it lowered the increase of the
Well,
amount.
when you say you transferred, did you pay off the student loans or just increase your, did you take a second second.
You recreated
Gotcha.
the mortgage loan.
Right.
And so my husband.
But you paid
was
off-
paying
you paid off one loan,
$1,300 and I was
yeah.
paying $2,600 on the student loan.
She was able to find a backdoor way around, but not everyone has equity in their homes, particularly these kids when they are just out of college. So I think we need to figure out how to create the flexibilities within the system itself.
Did you support what,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
did you support what the Obama administration did when they took out the work to take out the middleman in the student loans?
What was that?
I can't remember the details, but there was an entity involved that didn't provide any value, but they simply, they were taking a cut of the money that was going in.
Yeah, I'm not familiar specifically with that, but whenever there's layers,
Yeah.
layering is the best way to go. Try to go straight to provider. And now that we have technology, a lot of these online systems are allowing us to cut through middlemen, save money along the way. There are so many ways for us to create more competition in this program. Right now, it's the big banks that control it, and that's why I love the idea of community banks and credit unions, getting those involved, and looking at other vehicles where it's linked up to a profession or public service, and see how we can create programs in the areas where we need more cops or firefighters, military. Obviously, we've got some programs already existing in those areas for student loans. I'd like to expand on that.
One of the questions I had was, we were talking about teacher incentives. It's great to have a teacher who's really motivated and get that incentive, but what about the teachers who are not good teachers? And the principals can seem to really think about that, and so maybe continue.
Yeah.
Those teachers who are underperformers, and I'm not sure if paying them would, what can we do about?
Well, right now, because of tenure, they automatically get a bonus and a salary increase. Under my program, you would see more and more of the available dollars go to the best teachers based on performance. And if you have a school board that's saying, we're gonna give all the bonuses out based on time served, not these ratings, parents will throw them out in the election. They will vote them out. And that's why what I'm doing is I'm starting small and trying to be very strategic about taking the teacher improvement fund and putting more money into it, so that there's more on the table to support good teachers.
Pushback from you.
There will be, absolutely, but you know what? They push back when I tried doing pension reform and competitive bidding on city services, but we showed the people the benefits of that, that if we could implement my budget reform plan, that we would be able to restore library hours, street repairs, public safety programs, and we got the backing of the Democrats in order to do it.
I think the problem is at the school board level, and I'm just speaking about Poway right now, is there's no transparency for
Right.
budgets. There are federal funds, Title I funds being taken away from some schools, funded to others. And it's an issue, and, there are 3 seats up, and there's a big push now to get so many people in there. But especially with federal dollars, that should be open book, to comment, let the school board know what people think. That's not the case. They don't even line items if there's a
Yeah.
budget.
That's why this fiscal policy position I'm creating will be looking only at our local governments. And, politicians don't like rocking the boat. As many of you know, on the city council, I was willing to take on my colleagues when they took their auto allowances and their pension benefits and all the other goodies, the free tickets to Padre and Chargers games. So on day one, I did a press conference where I said, I found out after being sworn in today that I got a pension that would give me $500,000 for just 4 years of service. I think that's outrageous. It's unacceptable. I'm turning it down. And of course, when you went to the colleagues at the council said, why the hell did you tell people that that's what it's worth? I said, well, I want to end that program. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? We don't get paid enough as it is. Well, public service. No one forced you to take this job. And so we're going to do the same thing on other issues where we strip the Congress of these types of perks. But I also knew that when I started looking at other jurisdictions' budgets, they got really uncomfortable. Like, well, wait a minute, we're on the school board. Why don't you just leave us alone? Let us do our thing. That's not very polite for you to be shining your light on our budget. my constituents want good schools. If you're not providing them with good schools, if there's something wrong in your budget, I'm gonna lay that on the table so people know. So, you know, I even told this to the Port of San Diego, when we were looking at issues on the convention center. They said, we have no money to help the convention center expansion. So I sat down and I said, well, I looked at your budget and I found a lot of money, but let's talk about the convention center expansion. I found out that he gets $6 million in revenue a year from the parking underneath the convention center, because it's the convention center's land, and they get the parking revenue. Now, you're telling us we have to pay for the full third phase expansion, but if we expand the convention center, won't you get more parking revenue from more business there? Well, yes, but, well, you know what? Not only do I want that revenue, but I want a piece of the parking revenue that you got from phase 1 and phase 2, which, by the way, we're paying for a predominant share. And so most of these politicians don't question the budgets, they just kind of go along. And what I do is I try getting the budgets, doing performance audits, looking at inspector general reports, and start looking at line items, doing public records requests, and then we come out with a watchdog report. That's the only way I can think to support parents who say, look, we're about to lose some of our best teachers.
Well,
Is there any option
Yeah,
on the
the
table?
response all last year was, oh, we've got these LCAP funds, we've got these LCAP funds. Well, and then those got restricted.
Yeah.
But you still don't know where they go.
Yep.
Our schools right now have the budget. We have it. There's no
Wow.
budget.
And there's an election coming up, so that's the best time to start laying these issues out on the table.
But in the meantime, those kids, I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing. They can't do anything.
Well,
They
they
can impact
laid off
teachers.
year after year. A couple years ago, they laid off literally the 5 best teachers in my opinion for an elementary school to save money. And they were the ones that were in charge of all of the programs, like the extra goodies that the kids did.
They actually got things
Yeah,
done.
we have
And
teachers
once they were gone,
are-
nobody else picked them up. So they lost out big time.
I've always smiled when they say there's no money. I was like, I'd like a chance to just go through your budget.
And the problem is,
See if we can
everybody
find
knows
some
that's not true, but.
Yeah. But no one has the specific line items, and
And
that's
you
what
ask
you
the
do.
questions, even at school board meetings, you get different answers.
Yeah.
And what is it then?
When I started taking on the city in 2003, saying, look, your deficit is a lot bigger than you're admitting. You're passing budgets that are using enron accounting, sweeping the problem under the rug. Scott Peters, the guy I'm running against, was like, no, don't listen to him, he doesn't know what he's talking about. The city manager was like, yeah, no one knows what they're talking about. What happened? We were able to show that the emperor had no clothes, that they were lying about the budget. The budget was woefully out of balance. They were hiding billions of dollars in debt by issuing false and misleading financial statements. As a result of all these disclosures that we were able to make, the city lost its credit rating. And these politicians knew what they were doing was wrong. They voted for false and misleading financial statements, and they knew better than this. But no one's ever...
There should be something that happens.
Exactly. A watchdog on the outside. The local media hasn't really been as good on these issues. You kind of have to feed them all this stuff, and then they'll do a story. But if no one
It's
feeds
very
them,
short term.
yeah, if no one feeds them, they're not gonna have that information out there. So my goal is to continue to do the watchdog, the financial watchdog reports, not just on the federal level.
and state funds.
They are.
That should be open
Absolutely.
to the public.
Absolutely.
And seeing where they're putting those dollars, seeing where they're taking them away.
Yeah.
And reasons why.
And if necessary,
You don't get any answers.
well, I've referred issues to the county grand jury before. If necessary, I will refer issues from my congressional office to the IG, the Inspector General. That gives me a bigger, the federal government role allows me to have an IG investigation. Or to the county grand jury, because we've always had a very good relationship with the county grand jury. And they come out with some stinging reports. I mean, they sometimes produce reports that really have an impact.
But, the problem is, everybody's saying, I have a budget, I have a budget. We've had plenty of time to put a budget
Yeah.
together. These schools are started, they still don't have a budget.
Yep.
They don't have any categoricals, they can't even, the ELL teachers, they
Yeah.
can't tell them they have enough hours, there's no impact teachers to hire. Once they get it, then they got to go through the whole hiring process. So you're gonna lose another month.
And I think we were talking in the past, but does the foundation get the money? It gets the money from the parents, so.
Well,
when you're looking
And
at
some local
things like-
businesses, I'm gonna try to push the businesses to give some money.
they did get most of the money from the foundation until I pointed out to them that they were letting people come in and have our target audience, which is their ideal dream target audience, and they were charging parents to attend the events, and I said, are you crazy? You're using our school facilities, you're giving them an audience, they should be paying you a fee to present to our parents. So now they're charging fees to
Great.
companies, that are for-profit companies that let them give presentations. It shouldn't come from the parents have given it up.
But it does, I mean, if you were to guess how much money, I'm supposed to give away in the first week of school, what would you guess? Like, how much money do you think the school's asking?
Oh, you probably are shelling out, close to what, $800, $900? Because all the supplies that you buy.
$500 from the main, $500 from the foundation,
Yeah.
that's what they're asking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
PE clothes, locks, $1,150 to buy the locks. I mean, it just goes on and on.
And if you can imagine a working family that may not have as much means, that they are barely making their rent payment or mortgage payment, they can't afford that.
We're in Poway, we're in a good school district. We're a slice of America, you know.
My daughter asked me to give, I'm sorry, I guess
That's
I
okay.
was late, I was
It's
told
okay.
it started at 1:30, I'm
It's
so
okay.
sorry. My daughter asked me to give her friend a ride home the other day because, and I didn't realize, she walks, it's an hour and a half walk that she walks home from school. She goes to Mount Carmel and lives over by Doubletree Hotel.
Wow.
And it takes her an hour and a half to walk home, but she just happened to be wearing sweats and a long sleeve black shirt and it was 90 degrees. I was going the opposite direction. I was heading to Mary Mason, and there was no way that I could let this little high school girl walk home in that heat, and her parents were working. But they couldn't. They can't afford the bus for her an hour and a half every day, and she doesn't have to walk home every day. Sometimes her parents can't pay rent, but they can't afford the bus.
And nobody else across America is paying $1,000 for bus tickets. We don't pay some pieces. Just my.
Does everyone else have the same experience?
And nobody is paying.
And, the state of California, they prohibit school districts from getting competitive bids on support systems, services. And I think that's just outrageous. And you can save a lot of money by just looking at business practices that work in any other walk of life.
You are aware that this whole thing about sports being a donation,
And that's
they
right.
hound us.
I know.
It's not a donation. We are hounded.
It's more of a fee.
Which,
Well, your kid doesn't play.
Yeah.
If we don't have
I'm
a donation.
very,
Serious.
especially, we happen to have been living in Melarousas for the last 5 years. It's like, where's that money? I mean, I know, well, when we lived in Stonebridge and we used to go to Mount Carmel, even though we don't live out there anymore, but we paid a lot of money for Melrose. We didn't have a new school. I mean, Mount Carmel's not a new school. But anyway,
But what I said earlier is that there's always enough money. There's always enough money. It's neat folks that are willing to do the deep dive and say, you're spending how much on that? Do you think there may be a better way of spending the money? And that's where we've got to
There's
get
like no
more
opportunity.
transparency.
I mean, you could talk to a million people that is very, they will pass my emails along and everything else.
You just bring it to my office and our fiscal analyst will dig deep and he will dive in.
they're not investing the right money in the right places. The coaches, like my boys went through, now they're on the third water polo coach. I mean, in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then that's sad. I mean, my son, this next son just dropped out of water polo. I mean,
Because you can't
it's
build
like,
a relationship.
No, you
Yeah.
can't, and the team can't. I mean, the team can't perform. So maybe perhaps they needed to invest more and put more money in that area. I don't know, but that's important to us because the team.
Yeah.
That also gives yourself to college too, so I know that's how I got to college, because my parents were gonna pay for it. And then I had to go to Missouri because California was so impacted. It would take me 5 years on the waiting list just to get into nursing school.
Wow.
So I went out in the middle of nowhere, so I could get my schooling done back. And it's
thoughts, any questions?
But I used to run an educational program down in the San Diego School District and in Palo School District. And I've worked with a number of young kids, elementary school kids, starting from first grade to fifth grade. My program was educational games, which I used for my own son. It really helped him in his education and made him one of the top students in the Palo School District and in California for a number of years. So I brought the program down to San Diego School District and found that the kids down there just don't know how to read. They learn how to-
Basics, basics.
yeah, starting from first grade to fifth, when they go into high school.
But I bet they could put a condom on.
You can put a what? Okay, I don't know about that,
They can make a Greek salad.
but, yeah. But they don't know how to read, and it's just unfortunate when you go down there, and I did a lot of research on it to figure out why is it the case? Why is it that, kids up here are having a better time for education than kids down there? It's about 70, get to high school level, it's about 90% of the kids are failing math,
Yeah.
and 75%.
The basic requirements.
Yeah, 75% fail reading. And then so if you go down and start from high school, and you see that, you go down to middle school, it's the same thing, and elementary school is the same thing. So they just keep passing kids from grade to grade to grade, and they just will fail. And they have no real future down there. Maybe 25% of the kids in that school district that are going to go off to college and do well, but the rest of them, there's nothing for them.
I'm so frustrated when the members of the San Diego Unified School Board pat themselves in the backs and talk about what a great job they're doing, and they're a model school district, and we see so many children not meeting the basic grade level requirements, and yet still moving forward, and it's almost as though they're trying to get these kids off the books, but guess what? It's an entire
They do,
generation.
probably does know how to get those kids off the books. Of course, right now, there's no tests, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no core tests, we're gonna have a real problem. You remove funding for impact teachers at the elementary level, and they're not gonna be able to do this in highway schools. Move on to middle school, have problems reading because they weren't captured early enough. And then you got this big gap not being tested,
Right.
so there's, no repercussions whatsoever. It's frightening.
Did you get your program approved, or did you just throw your hands up in the air and say, I can't,
Well, it's actually pretty interesting. I met with the mayor of San Diego about my program because I was going to see if we can get the expanded.
which one, the good one or the bad one?
The one that's no longer.
Do you have a story to tell?
Yeah, so we were actually, our meeting was in April, and I think it was a month later where we came and looked. So he was going to endorse the program actually, so it's getting there. But
If you would please leave your contact information, I'd love to hear more about it, and in January when I take office, I'd love to sit down and see if there's any way for us to help with the program. Other thoughts or comments, because we'll be releasing this plan in a few weeks, and what I'm shocked by again is, at least within my own political party, they don't seem to have a very detailed or mature set of ideas on education, and so I want to fill that void. I want to be able to bring positive ideas on education reform to the table and say, well, if you're not willing to put something on the table, how about we talk about this? And I think that, I think that more and more they may start moving forward.
Just like in the city, just transparency is everything.
Yes.
What you did before, and there needs to be transparency across the board, these school districts, these school boards, these budgets, and so parents understand the decisions being made. We don't know. Our school board people don't know. They're not given information, they'll just vote.
Yeah. And some of them do know, and they were put in office by
Or they don't really care.
the
Yeah,
folks
they
that they're
don't-
supposed to be negotiating with.
They have no kids, they have no vested interest, they've been on board 25 years, they don't care.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
So I'm a Democrat, just lay that out there. Whenever I hear someone talking about competition and what sounds like privatization, it makes me nervous. So I would just suggest, because I like everything that you said, all the ideas you just laid out, I like them all. I would just suggest that you do a really good job, especially with liberals such as myself, making sure that they understand your.
We're talking about public school, strong
Yes.
public school systems, yes.
That they understand, because I think, that they, make sure they understand what your goal is,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people in your party that say the same things,
But yeah,
but their
They need
goal
something
is to
else.
do away with.
they want to do away with
public education.
public education.
And they want to replace it with privatization. I think competition is a great thing,
That's good.
and
I know, like, my credit card bill going, oh my God.
Yep.
I mean, that's what the dollars do
Yeah.
at the outset of the school year. And-
Well, everybody's paying no matter whether they have their children in private or public schools. You pay a basic and then you pay on top of it.
It's private school, and it's in public school,
Yes.
we're paying so much money at the outset of the school year because we have, the teachers have their
And spend it
supplies,
on
we have to
supplies.
provide them with supplies.
Yeah.
We need clothes, we need blocks, and then they just want money for the foundation
Right.
to be able to provide.
To do
art.
basics, to do basics.
I've
Music.
started for
Yeah.
years in elementary school.
Yeah.
And science. I've also taught science because they don't have science teachers, they don't have art teachers. I'm not qualified.
What, and what do the, when the foundations want money, what does that pay for? Seriously?
It's actually, they are taking more and more on of the basic curriculum. You just mentioned the PE, art, dance, music.
But is it helping to cover the cost of what, electricity, the?
No,
No, you're paying the
actual
teacher.
teachers,
Yeah.
actual programs.
So
art,
why is
music,
it,
PE.
why, yeah, that's what I'm not understanding, why are the parents paying for that when we're
It
already
should be
paying
part of the
taxes?
system.
and
I
we're
agree.
paying-
Yeah.
We have no PE teacher, we have no art teacher, we have no science teacher. I can only be the phone teacher.
Yeah.
And so who had to teach that? The parents had to teach it. They said, if you want the kids to learn this, we'll help you, we'll provide you with some instruction.
Pamphlets.
Yeah,
I've heard about it,
exactly.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
not only are we paying all this money for our kids to go to public school, we're having to come in and teach the things that we should have.
And one of the things the business community is starting to get on board with, and Erwin Jacobs actually has been a good voice in this, kind of involvement on. They talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. They're now connecting the dots to the entry point to some of those for some children, which is STEAM. It's arts. And my niece was a perfect example. My sister would call me all the time saying, oh, what are we going to do about Angie? She's failing out of her classes. She doesn't want to do her homework. And, we were always worried that she could go get a job. Well, they had cut all the arts programs in the schools because she went to public school. But so she'd sit in her room and she'd be drawing stuff. And I would get, little things and I'd put them on my refrigerator once in a while. And think nothing of it. So we're like, oh, that's nice that I got it. What she was doing, she was self-teaching. And she was developing her art skills. So when she graduated, she went to FITM, Fashion Institute of Design and Marketing up in LA. Did a 2-year degree, and now she does graphic design and on the computer. And the other half of the time, she's designing the window cases, window displays in the mall. And she's making pretty good money doing it. And she didn't learn any of that in the public education system. It was the arts that opened up that, and I can just imagine so many children out there that because these programs don't exist, they're not developing their skill sets, and they're not being given that opportunity, that entry point. But the evidence exists that arts is a gateway to the technology, engineering, math type skill sets that all these companies are clamoring for, that they say they need for the economy. And yet here it's, if you don't get it, it's seen as a luxury that your parents, if you have means, can fund for the child.
I touched on this earlier, but I don't know if you were with it. Belarus, what happens to Belarus?
Belarus was a law, is a law that was passed, relatively recently in terms of the development of communities. So I think it was the 1990s, maybe it was earlier than that. And it would pay for the public infrastructure for that community, so roads, some of the existing, new schools, and basically government decided we can't be providing these services just with property tax, so we're going to require developments pay for these on their own. So as you're pointing out, you're paying for Belarus, but you're going to the old school that was there under the old law.
Right.
So a lot of the Belarus funds are not accountably spent. They melt. When I was on city council, I made a priority of in one of our neighborhoods, Mira Mesa, making sure that we could get money for our park expansion. Because Mira Mesa was very poorly planned in the 1970s, not enough amenities. And so when we had the Casa Mira review go through, which everyone sees that on the 15th, 2,000 units, I sat there and I said, wait a minute, we're not going to approve this unless you widen underneath Mira Mesa Boulevard, so we got an extra lane on both sides. development impact fees to be paid up front, and I want that money to be going into our park funds. And even Donna Fry voted for the project. It was one of the only projects that was a unanimous vote of the council, because I really held out these guys saying, more, we want to get it. So then I took the money, bucketed the money, and we were able to quantify that we could get a skate park, a new pool, new baseball diamonds and fields, and everything but the expanded actual park and rec center, which was going to be phase 3. We had enough for all that other stuff, an aquatic center. Moved that forward to city staff, and city staff said, yes, it's true, you have enough money to build this new facility, but you don't have enough money to staff it. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, we would have to hire an extra staff member or two for the aquatic center, the ball fields. We'd want to have a gardener, landscaper. I said, wait a minute, I'm actually going to partner with a nonprofit for the aquatic center. So we went to the Boys and Girls Club. We also went to YMCA and said, look, it's a competitive bid. Boys and Girls Club was going to manage it for free, as long as they could use the pool for their fee-based programs, but everyone would be able to get in from the community. The ball fields, the Little League and softball league said, don't let city staff touch it. We already have a foundation. We already maintain the existing bad fields. We'll, just have it renovated, and we will commit under a contract to maintain it. And they have a comfort station, and the way that they fund their improvements is they sell goodies during the games. So I took that package forward, and guess who opposed? The labor union, saying we don't allow volunteers. If you're going to build it, then we have the right to demand that we need to hire our people to staff. I'm just like, wait a minute, I spent all this time, and I got this money, and we're ready to rock and roll and getting a pool for Mira Mesa. Because right now we have a joint use with the school district as well as the Hourglass facility. And they said, no, we're not doing it. It's again, the money sometimes is there. The Mellows have been paid, but it melts. And right now, because of the economy getting better, our ability to get the biggest bang for the buck with the construction projects, construction companies are coming in now bidding higher because they have other work now. Back 3 years ago when I started this, it was like, oh, I'm going to get best rates. We're going to be able to put this program forward, and we're going to maybe have a little extra money left over to try to put together some renovations of the existing rec center.
They say melts.
Inflation. So back when I got the money, I could, under the bidding, because these companies are so hungry for work, because it was a bad recession, they were willing to build this whole thing for $20 million. If I were to bid it today, it's probably $25 million. So 20%, enhancement. So your money actually melts as it's sitting there.
But we're paying every year.
Yes,
So
you are.
I'm still paying a month.
Yes, you are.
So that means that there's still money coming in every year going somewhere.
Yep. And some of the times what they do is they take portions of the money, they say, we're going to cover city staff that are planning the projects. I put a stop to that. I was like, no.
Before it's going to the school district.
You don't touch that project until we have the money to do it. Because right now we're planning to plan the plan. And it's nothing but a way to say, can we justify taking this money out? When they are issuing bonds, they roll up as many costs as they can in those bond offerings. If the city attorney touched the bond, we got to pay for all the time in the city attorney's office. And, it's
So you're just still talking about Belarus, or you talking about something else? 'Cause I don't think
development
Belarus-
impact fees, Melrose, any of those infrastructure dollars that are sitting in these accounts. We're talking about millions of
I thought
dollars
it
in
was
San Diego.
more directly to the school district, so there's less to the school and more to the general development.
Melrose can be,
Yeah, it's dependent on what.
it's a number of amenities.
Yeah, well, I understood it was
Fire
like
station,
yeah, I understood it was to
sometimes.
build everything, like when Scripps Ranch was developed or whatever, and Stonebridge and all that. I understand it's to develop all of that, but once that's developed, and I suppose it still takes a long time to pay for
Pay off
everything.
bonds.
Yeah, but they still renew, I just recently found out they can renew over 40 years and
Yep.
they keep renewing it, which is ridiculous. But, I didn't realize it was that broad, that it would go out to all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Diff fees are also part of that as well. People, project, has to pay some level of development impact fees. And they would take the money and they'd sit on it. my view was, wait a minute, hold on, if you have 2,000 units going into Mira Mesa, and you have a community park that is woefully inadequate, 2,000 units is probably like what, 4,000, 5,000 people moving into a community. It's a lot for an already inadequate system. So I want to thank you on a holiday weekend for coming down and chatting about these issues. When I release my education plan, if you sign up, we'll send you a copy of it. And then, of course, my hope is that you'll know that when I'm in office, that if you have an issue where you're being told we don't have any money in the budget, give our office a call. We would love to sharpen some pencils looking over their budget and seeing where we can offer some helpful suggestions on where they can get the money from. But I appreciate your time this afternoon and look forward to serving you.